Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to episode 9 of my genre deep dive challenge. Run quarterly, this is a challenge voted on by my patrons, and I've decided to focus on sci-fi for the entire length of the challenge. And I can say with full confidence that I am reading way more of these titles than I would have had I been left to my own devices, so it's actually working. At the end of the last episode, I told you I was going to be reading Shadow Puppets next, and the read on this one went well. This is probably the shortest book I've read for the challenge so far, so I'm actually on schedule for once. Shadow Puppets Book 3 in Orson Scott Card's Shadow series, which is kind of a spin-off of the Ender's Game series. So you have Ender's Game, which was amazing, and then you have Ender's Shadow, which was even more amazing. It's kind of a companion novel to that, and then this expands the characters in the Ender's Shadow book. We're in territory in this book that's wildly different than what we got in Ender's Shadow. And it's not bad necessarily, it's just not, I don't think anything will ever live up to the pinnacle that was that book. Loved it so much. It was my favorite book of last year. And if you had asked me to predict what would be my favorite book of the year, I don't even know if that one would have been in the top 10. So, caught me by surprise, and I'm finding myself diving into the rest of this series. I'm going chronologically with an open heart. Like, I am so excited about everything that I'm reading. This book didn't really have a lot going on, to be fair, but what it did do, and what this Shadow series is doing as a whole, is expanding on some minor characters from those first two books in a way that I find incredibly profound. There's so much depth to these characters now, and some really cool surprises on a few of them. Like, I think the character work in here is brilliant. And the funny thing is, I'm not really digging the overall plot of this one. Not really my thing. Shadow of the Hedgehog was okay. The plot in this one was even less okay. Like, it was fine, but all of the other good components that were in Card's writing in those first two books has continued on in here in spades. It just happens to be a plot that I'm not interested in. But I'm so excited to find out what happens next. And the thing is even though I wasn't really into the plot, I still wildly enjoyed this book. It has a couple of great bigger picture moments. Some interesting character growth, but maybe not from the characters you'd expect. A couple of really great back and forth dialogue scenes. Love those. And overall, enough really good small components adding up to make up for the fact that the plot on this one was just kind of meh. And it's definitely a build-up book because the next book is the final book in this Shadow sequence. And you can tell we're just kind of putting pieces into place. So it was a fast read. I think I'm landing at a 3 out of 5 star. I might bump it up half a star. Nowhere near my favorite, but with 5-star moments in it. That's my pick for that. Other books you might like. Like, how do I go about picking other books you might like from a story that really didn't have a lot going on? Like, what's my basis? Like, well, if you were okay with this book and didn't mind that not a lot happened, you might like the big, massive middle part of The Forever War by John Haldeman, because not a lot happens in that one also. But a lot of people seem to really love that book. And obviously I'm being cheeky, but Forever War wasn't my favorite, but there were a lot of similar components to both stories. And I think if you liked one, and actually if you try not to read too much into problematic authors, themes, story components, all of those things, if you liked one, you might like the other. And for the record, Forever War, I wanted more of the battle components. The story drug way too long and focused on all the wrong things for me. When I thought the highlights of the story, there weren't enough of them within it. And then you add on top of that a whole bunch of problematic things, but that is beyond the scope of this particular video. For similar vibes, I'm picking the original by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal, who also wrote Calculating Stars. Not read anything else by her but this little short story. Shadow Puppets has a couple of medical components in it that, I don't know, kind of ring similar to me to the original, and kind of a similar setting, and that's pretty much where everything ends. This is like a novella, but it struck me as being appropriate for a similar mood that I have to be in when I pick up a card book. And then finally, Shadow Puppets. If you like the vibes and the characters, but want a more fun, compelling storyline, and keep in mind I'm specifically talking about Shadow Puppets as a standalone book, because I think everything up to this point as a whole has been wildly entertaining. But just based on this book, Old Man's War by John Scalzi, I recommend this book a lot, but it has everything for me. It's got the fun adventure factor, the humor, the character. The characters aren't very deep, but it's kind of like a snack sci-fi. You don't really pick that up for a lot of depth. And it was just a fun story. I liked the concept. I liked everything about it. It was one of the most fun I've had reading a sci-fi. And what little there was of politics in that one reminded me of Shadow Puppets. Yeah, I realize a lot of those are kind of a stretch, but work with what you got. This is what I get for committing myself to being consistent across videos. Since I have finished Shadow Puppets, my next step is to pick another title that I'm going to read for episode 10, and The Martian by Andy Weir. My patrons and I are doing a buddy read starting in a couple of days for this, and I'm super excited. This is the very beautiful broken binding edition, and it's a story that I kind of wanted to read anyway, but the fact that I paid a pretty penny for a special edition has kind of expedited it in my to-be-read list. I've made a commitment that if I'm going to be buying all of those special editions, I need to make a concerted effort to starting them. And actually, they are coming out with some really cool stuff. The next subscription box is going to be The Three-Body Problem, and they have cover images revealed for at least the first book, and it's just beautiful. And then there's a new one by Peter Hamilton coming out that I've got my eye on. The second book to the Perdido Street Station is available. Just too many awesome sci-fi books, and so I'm all for it. But in any case, I've got all three of the works by Andy Weir from them. And I know a lot more about this book than I wish I did going into it. It's kind of the reason it was on the back burner. I caught the end of the movie. One of those late night channel flipping things where I just stopped on the movie and watched the end of it. Why would I do that to myself? I basically made the book irrelevant. But like I said in my last video, it's more interesting in how we got from point A to point B and not necessarily all dependent on where he ended up. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a short little book, and I imagine it'll be a quick read, and it's massively popular for a reason. So I'm looking forward to joining the hype train for The Martian. And even though it's not for one of these videos that I'm doing, I am also continuing Kingdom of Death, the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. This is book 4. And I won't be doing an official report on this other than in my Read Reading to be Read feature every month. But I just wanted to share that, yes, I am actually reading more sci-fi than I'm reporting on for the challenges. So I'm just in a really sci-fi mood. I'm even looking to maybe restart the Red Rising series since Lightbringer came out. I had read up to Iron Gold, and it's funny, the gap between that initial trilogy and when Iron Gold came out was long enough that I didn't remember a lot of the stuff from the trilogy that I felt would have made Iron Gold even better. So I was kind of reading Iron Gold with one foot out the door, like, I really feel like I'm forgotten too much to really enjoy this. And then it took forever for Dark Age to come out, and then another forever for Lightbringer. So yeah. Anyway, that is what's going on in my sci-fi world right now. Next time you see me, I'll be reporting how The Martian went for episode 10, and then keep you up to date on any other sci-fi things I got going on. My patrons are getting access to these challenges a full quarter ahead of when they go live on the main channel. So if you'd like to participate in real time, link to my Patreon is in the description. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.